Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. We are live now here with our Horizen Labs in Horizen Twitter space. The topic for today is a very special one. We're going to be talking about exploring New Horizon, what that means, and a lot of different and exciting activities that the Horizen Labs and Horizen team have been working for the various months. So, welcome everybody as people are joining us. We're just about to kick off. My name is Angie. I'm a project manager at Horizen Labs. And like I said, we're going to be talking a little bit about New Horizon and what that entails for the ecosystem. So, as mentioned previously, the Horizen ecosystem team and the Horizen Labs TEP team have been working on exciting new development for the Horizen ecosystem, and we are incredibly excited today to formally be announcing New Horizon. So we're going to be taking a deeper dive into what exactly this means and why we are so excited to share this with the world. So I would like to let my coworkers introduce themselves, and then we can start and initiate the conversations around New Horizon. Who would like to start? John, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Angie. Hey, everybody, John Camardo. I'm the Director of Product at Horizen Labs. I've been with Horizen Labs for about 2.5 years. I think if any of you joined any of the previous kind of Discord town halls that we had, I think I spoke a couple of times, but it's been quite a while since I've been engaged on any sort of public communication. So really happy to be back and excited to share the New Horizon concept with everybody. Diego, you wanna go next?
Yeah, thanks, John. Hey, everybody. I'm probably an unfamiliar face for most of you, but I'm a product marketing analyst here at Horizen Labs, and I'm thrilled to be speaking on my first Twitter space. I've been working closely with John as well as the rest of the team on this New Horizon initiative, so I'm very excited to talk more about it today. I'll hand it off to Gustavo.
Why don't we talk about a little bit about what's New Horizon from a broader perspective? John, would you like to walk us through the concept?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Angie. The first thing I'll say is New Horizon is kind of the internal name that we've been using for kind of like revamping the Horizon ecosystem. The name is very much subject to change, and happy there are a couple of discussions I think in our discourse around what that actual name will end up being. But it is a concept right now, and it's a concept that is kind of still going through a bunch of iterations. We're kind of changing things as we go, as is probably going to continually be the case as we kind of learn new things, experiment with new technologies. But in any case, it is an initiative where we're trying to attack the sort of modular blockchain space. And what we're really trying to do is focus on breaking out a piece of settlement, which Diego will go through the components of a modular blockchain system. But we're really focused on the settlement piece. And given our sort of expertise, Horizen Labs expertise in ZK technology, and given what we've worked on in the past with Zendu and scaling, we think this is a really important place where we can play, because we really want to focus on proof verification, which is a big component of the way that ZK rollups in the Ethereum space ultimately settle a lot of their transactions onto Ethereum. And so we want to make we want to turn the Horizen main chain into essentially a new main chain whose sole purpose is to verify proofs from either the Ethereum ecosystem ZK rollups, or potentially in the future, we plan to build a settlement layer in the Horizen ecosystem so that ZK rollups can exist within the Horizen ecosystem and ultimately have their proofs verified on the Horizen main chain. And so that's kind of really high level what the concept here is. And we're kind of working right now on bringing a proof of concept to a test net that we can show you all. So that's super, super high level. I think we'll get into a lot more details as the conversation continues and as we start to address some of the questions that have been asked. But for now, I think I'll turn it back over to Angie to kind of go through the rest of the agenda that we have prepared.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. Yeah, so when we say modular, and when we think about modular blockchains and the tech stack, I would like maybe for Diego to tell us a little bit about what this means in a broader Web3 perspective and the ecosystem. So Diego, feel free to walk us through that.
Yeah, thanks, Angie. So I'll start by providing the differences between monolithic and modular blockchains, because I think that provides some important context. But the core difference lies in how the two operate. And currently, there are four blockchain layers, each focused on different functions. The four are execution, consensus, data availability, and settlement. And monolithic blockchains handle all of these functions within a single protocol, while modular blockchains concentrate on specific functions and optimize for them while delegating other functionalities to separate blockchains. So I can give a little more details about each of the layers, but the execution layer is pretty much focused on processing transactions on chain and hosting smart contracts and applications, pretty much where end users interact. The consensus layer determines the validity and order of transactions, and the data availability ensures that there's accessibility of transaction data so that anyone can ensure that it hasn't been tampered. And lastly, the settlement is what confirms and stores the final transactions records. So that's the four layers. But let's continue with like a little history. So until a few years ago, tribalism and maximalism ruled Web3, with the primary conversation in this space being debates revolving around what blockchain would rule them all. We can kind of refer to this era as the era of monolithic blockchains, but at the time, the pursuit of performing everything for everyone came at a cost, compromised performance. So in order to tackle scalability issues, layer 2 solutions emerged, which segregated execution from the other blockchain functions, then all considered a part of settlement. This was just the beginning of the journey towards modularization, and it really started gaining traction with Ethereum layer 2s, which were built to address Ethereum scalability, congestion, and high fees by isolating execution from the other functions and allowing more transactions to be processed on those layers so that they could scale Ethereum. Going forward in this kind of historical overview, I'll focus on an Ethereum-centric narrative to illustrate the concept of modularization effectively, because I think it's easier to imagine when you have examples. So with the rapid adoption of layer 2's scaling Ethereum, there's both, think of the Arbitrums, Optimisms, Polygon, ZK Syncs, etc. The limitations of relying on monolithic blockchains for data availability became evident. At the time, data availability was part of the settlement layer. So this prompted the development of solutions that segregated data availability from the rest of the settlement functions, such as data availability networks like Celestia and Avail. These essentially introduced a new layer that hadn't existed before and was previously considered part of settlement. This mirrors what we're trying to accomplish with New Horizen, because we're proposing to essentially further modularize the settlement layer by creating a new layer dedicated to proof verification. So like in summary, modular blockchains are blockchains that are dedicated to one or a couple of the blockchain functions and optimized for these, while monolithic blockchains are generic and perform all the functions. Yeah, this is important because we believe that the trend towards modularization provides the Horizen ecosystem an opportunity to not only modernize our technology, but also to make a strategic leap forward towards an efficient, more efficient, secure, and potentially most important, collaborative Web3 space. Thanks.
Diego, a quick question that just came to mind because we're talking about, okay, proof verification, we're talking about the different layers. When you say proof verification, you mean that this is going to impact, let's say, the various and independent layers, settlement, consensus, and so on and so forth, or are we taking a look at a more holistic view of all the way that the blockchain operates? How do you see that, or if you could enlighten me with this?
Yeah, so here what we're actually doing is we're trying to break out the one of the existing functions of the settlement layer and isolate it. So it fits into the larger stack because it'll be compatible with compatible with the other layers, and the other ones can use it as essentially as a service, of a proof verification service. So yeah.
I see. Okay, okay. Great. Thank you so much for answering that. Okay, so I think, let's say, we can also talk about, for example, what this means for the Horizon ecosystem in a broader scale. John, would you like to walk us through this? And also, if there is anything else you would like to add as well from what Diego just mentioned, please.
Yeah, thanks. And great summary, Diego. So I mean, I think it's really, this is kind of a way to bring Horizon kind of into the conversation, which I know has been kind of like what everyone's been hoping for kind of along the way as we've been developing things like Zendu and Eon and all that kind of thing. But this really, I think, represents kind of a leapfrog event for Horizon, and it will put Horizon at the center of conversation when it comes to what we believe will be kind of the future of blockchains, which are ZK rollups. So it kind of aims to accomplish two things. One is that Horizon can essentially be viewed as New Horizon could be viewed as a service provider for ZK rollups that exist in the Ethereum space. And it could do that by having those rollups continue to operate entirely as they do today, but change one thing, which is rather than send the proof of their transaction validity data to Ethereum, send it instead to New Horizon and reduce the cost super significantly. So that's kind of like one thing, which is kind of, again, being a service provider to the ZK rollups that exist in Ethereum. The potentially more interesting piece, though, for Horizon stakeholders is that we also want Horizon to have the ability to have ZK rollups exist in its own ecosystem. And so, again, this is where what I mentioned before, where we might build the settlement layer where ZK rollups can sit on top of that settlement layer. Essentially, that settlement layer would mimic very much what Ethereum does, but maybe in a more highly optimized way. And the ZK rollups can deploy on top of that, again, send their proofs for verification of their transaction validity to New Horizon, and grow the Horizon ecosystem, rather than Horizon just acting as a service provider to ZK rollups that exist in another ecosystem. And I think that should be really exciting for again, for Horizon stakeholders, because it can help grow this ecosystem to be what we had sort of envisioned it would be with the development and deployment of Zendu and with the development and deployment of Eon.
I like that, John. Just complimented to what you're saying. You were saying, okay, some of the benefits are, of course, reduce costs in terms of lower fees, more scalability. Could we say that? That's, let's say, where we're pointing towards.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately what we're pointed toward. The first iteration, and I might be getting a little bit into the roadmap to implementation now, but the first iteration of what we're really trying to do is bring a Horizon proof verification chain to testnet and then ultimately to mainnet. And that's really, really focused and almost entirely on reducing the overhead costs that ZK rollups that operate in the Ethereum space currently incur. And those costs are pretty significant. They're in close to $50 million a year is what we're kind of internally estimating. And we anticipate that's going to grow significantly as technology gets better for these ZK rollups and as more of them come into existence. And then to your point, Angie, the reality is we'd love for better scalability for these ZK rollups. And so that's where this settlement layer kind of comes into play for what we'd like to build in the Horizen ecosystem, where we'd have a highly optimized version of an EVM chain where maybe there isn't any sort of competition for computational or data resources except for the rollups that are deployed there. And so, yeah, we kind of hope to achieve that as well.
I like that. Thanks, John. I would like to introduce Gustavo. Gustavo, let us know if you can hear us. So I know you were having some mic issues, but if not, we can always come back to you, Gustavo, so you can intro yourself. No, I'll come back to you, Gustavo, in a minute. All right, so you were starting to talk about the roadmap, John. Are there any other, let's say, milestones that you would like to share or that you consider important? We haven't touched on the point of security, and I know it's one of the always has been for since forever one of the major components and also a major challenge in our industry, right? So if there's anything you would like to add around that topic, or even Diego for that matter, please.
Yeah, thanks, Angie. I actually just finished putting a sort of public roadmap together that will hopefully be posted relatively soon to kind of provide a lot more information about what people can expect and when they can expect it. But our first milestone is really focused on, again, on this proof verification blockchain. And we aim to have a testnet set up by right around the end of Q1, where there will be a ZK rollup that is operating on Sepolia testnet, which is an Ethereum testnet. And we might try to like mock a bunch of transactions just so there's something to actually roll up to Sepolia. And we'll have that roll up posting all of everything that it would normally post to Sepolia except for that proof. That proof will get sent to the New Horizen main chain, which will also be in a testnet, very early testnet. We can call it an alpha testnet. That proof will be verified on this main chain, which will be purpose built to do proof verification, and we'll be able to do so in a really highly optimized way relative to where it currently gets verified today, which would be Ethereum. And then that testnet will send a sort of attestation back to Sepolia so that the rollup can get confirmation that its proof was verified in our blockchain, in the New Horizen blockchain. And so that all should be kind of publicly viewable by the end of Q1. And then from there, we really want to begin to kind of address a number of things like Eon migration, Zen migration. We want to introduce a ZenIP for the settlement layer that I've been referring to after that. And then we'll really we'll really start to address some of the harder work, which is the decentralization of this proof verification layer, which kind of gets to the point that you brought up, Angie, around security. We need to have a pretty highly decentralized chain for this to mimic the security levels that are kind of in the Ethereum space. And then we want to start to address the decentralization of the settlement layer. And then from there, we have some ideas on how we can potentially help roll-up operators optimize their stacks and optimize their business processes. But that would be much further out. So just to reiterate, a testnet by, let's say, April 1st. Some Zenips that introduce the settlement layer, some of the migrations in the second quarter, settlement layer testnet somewhere in Q3, Q4. And then from there, things get a little bit fuzzier. So I won't give timelines for any of the other things, but you can look at the roadmap as soon as we post it, which shouldn't be too long. Just needs to go through a bit of socialization internally here at Horizen Labs and a little bit of a prettification, and then we'll put it on a website and make sure everybody has the opportunity to look at it and ask any questions that they might have.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. So just recapping, and again, for the folks joining us, we've been talking about this proof verification chain, still to be named, settlement layer, and then these milestones that John was just mentioning. I'd like to maybe ask Diego, because Diego, you have a lot of insights on market these days. So for you to maybe just tell us from your perspective, like things that are lacking, things like these opportunities, which of course are, let's say, one of the various reasons we are working very hard towards New Horizon, and things that you think could improve or could be done better. So if you would like to share anything, any insights from the market and from your perspective, please.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. So just before answering that question, I'm going to talk about the next steps that are not technical. So we're actively working on the Zenit for the proof verification chain and anticipate its publication soon. We've already written an initial draft, which is currently undergoing several revisions. And this is because we're taking it very seriously and want to ensure that it addresses the community's questions and all their inputs. And in the meantime, I suggest that all of you guys check out our discourse post introducing the concept, and feel free to share any questions or feedback that you might have there. So now back to your question, Angie. In the past, there's many of our Horizen technologies have been technically innovative, but also complex, which has led to limited adoption. And this was partially because our development process was tech-driven and not based on existing user and market needs. However, we have now shifted from a technology-focused or solely technology-focused paradigm, learning from our previous experiences, and our new philosophy is to not just create excellent technology and hope that users will come, but to build technologies with our users in mind and to meet the existing and future needs of the industry. As John previously mentioned, our research has shown that while there are many trying to tackle the data availability problem, no one has specifically honed in on proof verification, a gap that's already costing ZK rollups tens of millions of dollars. And with more ZK rollups in the pipeline and the release of development frameworks that are making it even easier to launch ZK rollups, we expect the demand for such a solution to only increase.
Thanks, Diego. I'd like to pass the word to Gustavo. Gustavo, if you'd like to introduce yourself, welcome.
Hey guys, can you finally hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, sorry for all the technical issues. My computer wasn't collaborating. So, hello everyone. I'm Gustavo, Program Manager at the Horizen Foundation, and I'm here today representing the foundation. And I'm really excited with the New Horizen direction, and I personally think that New Horizen represents a major breakthrough, and will have Horizen lead the industry in this particular segment, that is proof verification and settlement. Okay, and I'll pass back to you, Angie.
Thanks, Gustavo, and welcome. So nice to have you here. You're, of course, one of this Horizen Zen OGs. We also have a few other Zen/Horizen OGs in here in this call. So always happy to see familiar faces, and yeah, I think this is very interesting what Diego and John have been walking us through. Before we move on, because we're about to be 30 minutes into the community questions, because there were a lot of questions, and we would like to address each one of them. Is there anything else, John, that you would like to refer to or to talk about before we move on with some of the questions?
Just one quick thing, which is I think that like this has been a super high level overview, and it probably if you're just getting introduced to the concept or have a little familiarity with the concepts that we've introduced here, is relatively confusing. So I would encourage everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces here from our Discord and from Discourse. I would encourage everybody to ask any questions that you might have. I'm pretty active in Discord, and I'm happy to address them all directly. And feel free to ask any more and add any more to the questionnaire that was sent out. So please ask questions and help us. Well, number one, help us clarify those for you, but also help us develop a better understanding and harden our understanding and our position that this is a really important aspect and problem in the market that we need to be addressing.
Absolutely. All right. So why don't we move on with the community questions? So the first one that I see here is it says New Horizon chose a modular blockchain like Celestia Polygon that we've been talking and addressing on a high level. What are the strengths of Horizen compared to this?
I'll jump in just to start. I mean, I think it requires, the question requires a little bit of like clarification. So it's really important to note, like, we're not a competitor to Celestia. Celestia is tackling an entirely different problem. So that part of the question I don't fully agree with, but I do think that, like, to Diego's point, we are addressing a very, very specific problem that is yet to be addressed. And so I'm not really sure that we necessarily need to compare ourselves to those blockchains because we are kind of, again, just trying to address a completely different space that they are not tackling. Celestia is focused on data availability, which was a piece of settlement. And so we are similarly trying to break off a piece of what was known as settlement in that modular blockchain system, which is proof verification, and tackle that. And we hope to do it really, really well because of our expertise that we've been developing at Horizen Labs since the inception of Horizen and the inception and development and deployment of Zendu and Eon from there. So I can turn it over. I think maybe Diego has a couple of other insights to add here, but I would just say, like, again, it's something different than Celestia, and it's something different, in my opinion, than what Polygon is really focused on.
Yeah, thanks, John. I think you did a pretty great job summarizing it. And pretty much what I would just to add is that actually, if anything, you can think of as modular blockchains as puzzle pieces. So those are completely different puzzle pieces, and we can actually ideally integrate and create, for example, those aren't competitors, but ideally would potentially be users or partners. So like we could work, for example, with Celestia and Polygon and not necessarily see them as competitors because, yeah, we're solving a completely different problem.
All right. Okay, moving on to the second question. I see here, this is a comment, and I would imagine it becomes a question. So it says, some people could be concerned that New Horizon could end up like Zendu. There's obviously a lot of development work going on, but what about the traction? So Diego, would you like to maybe talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think I might have jumped the gun on this one and talked a little bit about it before, but I think in short, our renewed approach to our technology development is really what will ensure that there will be traction. We've done extensive research and we've seen that there's a market need existing, and we only expect it to grow. So while in the past our technologies have been, like I said, very innovative but complex, this is meant to be much simpler and built to serve an existing market need. So, thanks.
I like that. The next question is, has New Horizon been brought in front of major investors, such as DCG, for example, to see if there's traction? I don't know who would like to jump into this one. Maybe John?
Oh yeah, I'll address this. I just want to underline really quickly on the last question though. Like, I think I don't know who asked this question. It's a good one, but anyone else who's asking themselves this question or has had this question about having concerns that New Horizon will end up like Zendu has to ask themselves, why was Zendu not widely adopted? And I think the answer is that the technology was really complicated. I think the market moved quite significantly from Zendu is built for UTXO chains. It wasn't built for account-based chains. Zendu is built on top of a non-programmable blockchain. Programmable blockchains like Ethereum are sort of what everyone is focused on right now. So I think when you ask yourself this question, you kind of have to think like Zendu was not an easy thing to use, and also wasn't necessarily something that addressed the same things that developers were looking for, except for the scalability problem. And the market moved kind of as this was being implemented. So some of the things that we're doing, to Diego's point, are we're trying to get real clear market feedback prior to developing features as opposed to after developing features. We're trying to develop much more quickly and iterate more rapidly so that we can put things in market. And you can see that, like, based on what I said before, that we are trying to be in a testnet by the end of Q1. We want that testnet to be something that people can provide feedback on so that we can go back. And if we need to pivot or change what we're sort of working on or the features that we're planning on delivering, we can. And so you'll have to take my word for it, but I'm relatively confident that we will not end up in the same situation as we did with Zendu because of the approach that we're taking. Now, with respect to the actual question that I was asked, I'll address that now. New Horizon has, I can't really provide any like super detailed information here. It's Horizen Labs is a private company, and so there's a lot that I can't share about what we're doing and where we're shopping the New Horizon idea around. But thus far, with some of the important discussions that I've been involved in, there's been really, really great feedback about New Horizon. And there are plans to bring this idea to other important stakeholders in the industry and get their feedback on it as well. So thus far, yes, there has been feedback from important people in the industry, and it's all been good related to New Horizon.
Thank you, John. Okay, so Gustavo, there's a question for you, but if you want to like maybe just give some context around that, or maybe just talking on a high level about your involvement with the Horizen Foundation, please feel free. Basically, this is directed towards tokenomics. Like, community is asking if the tokenomics around Zen will change with this New Horizon implementation.
Okay, so in the context of New Horizon, there hasn't been any conversations about changing the structure of the token economics. And I would also like to emphasize that any potential changes, they will always go through our DAO. So we won't be able to change anything without getting to the community first and going through the DAO for a potential vote. But for now, there's no planned changes to the token economics. And back to you, Angie.
Thanks, Gustavo. Now, speaking about Zen itself, do we believe that New Horizon or Horizen 2.0, whatever we end up calling it, is going to create more demand for Zen? And if so, what would be, let's say, the points addressing that?
Yeah, I'll jump in here again. I think as you're asking yourself, like, will New Horizon 2.0 create demand for Zen? You have to ask yourself, what is the demand for Zen today? I mean, there isn't a whole ton, right? It's to transfer tokens and set up passive, secure and super nodes that generate kind of passive rewards for people. So I guess now that we've introduced Eon, there's demand for Zen with respect to that. This will be an additional piece on top of all of that, essentially, where people who need to have their proofs verified, ZK rollups that need to have their proofs verified, will have to pay in Zen to have those proofs verified. So of course it will create demand for Zen. Now, how much demand will it create for Zen? That's dependent on how many rollups that currently exist in Ethereum we can convince to save a ton of money by posting those proofs to New Horizen. And it also is dependent on how many rollups we can convince to build in our ecosystem, in the Horizen ecosystem. So, I mean, based on those statements, you can kind of draw your own conclusions, and I'll kind of leave it at that.
Perfect. I see here another question, and in a way, we've already talked about this, but also feel free to chime in and just add to this one. So, who will use New Horizen? Who's the customer or target user? Well, actually, there's three questions in one. Does the market want New Horizen? So yeah, if there's anything else to add around that topic.
I mean, I think by and large this has been addressed, right? I'll just, I guess, summarize for the group here. There's a market which exists today, which are ZK rollups settling and verifying their proofs on Ethereum. New Horizen can be a service provider to those rollups. Diego talked about the growth of the ZK rollup space as technology improves, as ZK rollups become easier to deploy. And there's plans right now with this New Horizen concept to enable rollups that don't exist today to build in the New Horizen ecosystem by settling on a New Horizen settlement layer and verifying their proofs on New Horizen main chain, let's call it. So those are two sort of spaces that those are two types of customers, and that's kind of the market that we're looking at right now for potential customers for New Horizen. The last thing is there are applications that might need to verify proofs that are not rollups, and there's certainly a case that can be made that this New Horizen proof verification chain could very much be provide a service to those applications as well. I won't get into too many details there because it's still kind of an idea that internally at Horizen Labs we're mulling over, but I'll let everyone kind of think about that and mull that over in the meantime.
Thanks, John. Diego, is there anything else you would like to add on that matter?
No, I think John covered it.
Great. Gustavo, is there anything you'd like to share from the foundation side of things, or anything that's on your mind? Any comments to share with the community? Feel free.
On my side, just saying I'm super excited with the New Horizen initiative and can't wait to bring the full Zen IP to the community. Back to you, Andrew.
I like that. I like that excitement. So, well, those were the various questions from the community. I would say if there's nothing else to add, John, Diego, thank you so much for walking us through this. As we mentioned, we are exploring what New Horizen means, what this entails, and we've went over the various milestones on a high level. However, I would encourage the community to just keep asking questions, keep engaging in the various social media channels, Telegram, Discord, and so on and so forth. I think this is a very interesting topic, if not one of the most important ones right now for Horizen. All of this is always with the focus of modernizing our technology to continue pursuing this vision. I would dare to say, we believe in a multi-chain world. It's something we hear often these days, and it's certainly it's where things are going these days, which is, we believe our thesis to be increasingly modular. So, and yeah, that's some of the arguments for New Horizon. Yeah, I also share the excitement. Sorry if there's some background noise. There's some construction right on my street, but yeah, I think those are my 2 cents on that matter. John, is there anything else you'd like to share with the community before we wrap up here?
I'll just reiterate one more time that we really need everyone's sort of feedback, questions, and everyone's help on this. New Horizon is not a concept that will be like totally and completely, kind of vetted and hardened. The concept for it won't be hardened just from Horizen Labs. We need everyone's sort of questions. We need everyone's comments. We need everyone's insights. So please join in the discussion on Discord, Discourse, wherever, even on Twitter or X, I guess now. So feel free to post those questions. I'm happy to answer anywhere. Just tag me.
Awesome. Thanks, John. I'd like to say thanks to everybody, Diego, Gustavo, John, the Horizen Labs and Horizen community members as well for joining us today. And we'll see each other on the next one. Thanks, everybody.